You're ready or not, it's Fragments of Silicon.
Greetings and welcome to the second part of today's episode of Fragments of Silicon. Yes, indeed, in case you missed it, the interview portion of this broadcast happened during the morning, mainly because we had a guest from Great Britain. If you missed that, and you probably did, because we usually don't go out at Wednesday mornings. It is recorded. Do mind the audio. We had to use Discord for this, and Discord has a much more sensitive audio setup than Skype. And we couldn't get things adjusted quite around the wind, so to speak. So it is there. It's not too distracting, but it is there. Anyway. Yeah, so that means this show portion is only going to be the news and the topic of discussion.
Yeah. Because sadly, I don't have decent editing software to make it all one episode.
Well, it's like, even if, we kind of have done the full routine for both parts here. So, anyway, not that it matters. Onward to the news. And for once, we can start with somebody else, since Betty Van didn't have horrible life-affecting stuff this week, at least as far as I know. Twilight, why don't you start us off this week, since you weren't here this morning?
All right. Well, the weather is warming up much more. It's starting to feel a little bit more like summer. I can't complain, though. I've had enough of the cold season of winter. Let's see here now. Well, the mudslide that has been blocking the old road I used to drive on has been sitting there for, 2 or 3 months now. Turns out the highway people are. That's going to be become a legal issue, apparently, because somebody owns the mountain that Mudslide came off of. Some bigwig. Yeah, so that's looking like it's going to take probably just about a whole year to get cleaned up now. Wonderful. Also, the hillside road I drive on as well is getting worked on. Thankfully, there are 2 places that were starting to break off.
Imagine that'd be bad for a road.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. That hasn't been too interfering. I mostly have to be concerned about it in the evening, since they're not working on it in the mornings. Other things, I went and seen Avengers Endgame this past Saturday. It was worth seeing. I can say that. There's not really much else to speak of. So, next.
All right, Galax?
The weather's been nice the last couple of days, so that's good. Yeah, I honestly haven't had that much interesting going on. I'm still kind of recovering from having a stressful week last week. So I'm trying to avoid doing too much weird. No new games, but I've still been playing Splatoon and Smash some. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go out for Free Comic Book Day, but when I went to the game store today, there were still some leftovers, so I picked up some of those, although I didn't recognize all of them.
Mm.
So that'll be fun.
All right. That it?
Yep.
All right. Well, Betty, it's your turn.
So far everything seems fairly okay. I'm still having migraine problems, so I had to move up my doctor's appointment that I think was like in late July is now being moved up to Tuesday, so that's fun.
That's quite a jump.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, when, your migraines are causing you to have blurry vision,
Yeah.
that's kind of something that needs to be taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as gaming goes, in the Golden Week sale on PlayStation Network, I picked up the DLC for Final Fantasy 15. So that's
The
gonna be,
existing DLC,
yeah,
not the canceled DLC.
yeah. Well, I got everything except for the new episode Arden, because that wasn't included in the season pass. But it's like, if I like the rest of it, by the time I get done with it, they'll probably be going on sale anyway. And then something that was almost bad this morning. We couldn't find my mom's cat. Yesterday he
Okay.
was harassing Noise, my youngest cat, so we sent him downstairs, sent Reed downstairs. He found a new spot to hide. We thought he got outside. So we were looking everywhere, and then he just kind of pops his head out, and it's like, God damn it, cat. So yeah, that was a fun morning. And then I guess other than that, not much to report.
Uh, and for you, that's a light week.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Although I wish the rain would stop. I need to mow the yard at least once before my surgery.
Well, I guess that's up to the weather gods.
Yeah.
Like, I wish it would stop being so humid, but I don't have much hope of that happening. So, anyway, let's see. I suppose the big thing here is I finally got my controller replaced.
Hooray.
I mean, it's nice having a controller that works properly. And dear God, I do not miss the Xbox 360 D-pad.
No one does. That's why they changed it.
Like, I mean, I'm not sure if you could really quantify that as a D-pad. Like, it's more like an analog stick that got stillborn.
Jesus.
A D block.
Yeah. I'm like, anyway, in less disturbing metaphors, let's see. My fan's been working properly.
We can tell.
Well, it's also new, so it's like you can tell less on Skype. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
it's like we really didn't have too much time to do fucking testing. Because,
Yeah.
the guest only had a half an hour.
Right.
So sometimes you just have to live with the fucking wind tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Still important. And yeah, that the rest of my week has been helping my mother who got sick with things. That's
Mm.
and also wanting to stay away because last time I did that, I got sick myself, and
That's
know,
not good.
yeah, it's like I mean, she assures me she's not contagious, but I'm like, yeah, last time she did that, I got swollen glands.
I was about to say, those are like some of the most famous last words I've ever heard. I'm not
Mhm.
contagious. The entire village is dying. Well, shit.
Yeah. I mean, she seems to keep waffling in between. She's, on the verge of recovery, and now she needs to go to the doctor. Like,
Fun.
Hmm.
it's like, strong willing isn't going to make the sickness go away. Now, with that in mind, um, that's about it for the news. Like, eh. It's always awkward when we have to, change the format because, like, do we want to play the transition music? Because,
I'm fine.
because, well, merrily we roll along to, well, the topic of discussion. Like, and this week, um, we're talking about Epic Games because, we kind of talked about it last week, but it was one of those news breaking situations. Like,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, that thing had just happened that afternoon, and we didn't really have a chance to configure anything around it.
Yeah.
But it's like, in case you missed it, the big news, or one of the big news stories of last week was Epic Games buying out Psyonix. And if you don't know who they are, well, they're the Rocket League people.
Mhm.
They're the ones who make car soccer. Like, they've made other things, but you probably don't know them. Like, but they actually do have a long history with Epic because they are a company who got started making Unreal Tournament mods. Like, and in
Mhm.
fact, they used to be located like 15 minutes away from Epic Games, and then they went out to San Diego for reasons that elude me right now, but I suspect aren't terribly important.
Right. That's one of those things we'd get if we had them for an interview.
Among other things, like, I'm not sure how available they'd be now, since
Yeah.
I mean, it's like at this moment in time, I don't think they're actually owned by Epic Games. It's more, intent to be acquired and all that. It's one
Mm.
of those, they're not, just by technicality of paperwork.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's kind of like with Disney and Fox for a while.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's
that
like
merger didn't actually happen till a couple weeks ago.
a couple months ago, but yeah, it's like, I think they said the deal was going to be done in like June,
Mm.
something like that. It's pretty close, and
Yeah.
you know, the upshot of all this is, well, Rocket League. So it's like they're playing coy, I guess, but
Mhm.
people are wondering what they're going to do with Rocket League now that Epic Games owns it, and well, some of it is known, like. Apparently, it's like Rocket League is eventually coming to the Epic Games Store.
Because of course.
Yes. It's like the big question is whether or not the Rocket League is still going to be on Steam. And, okay, apparently it'll still be supported, but they've been, they've been dancing around. Like, all signs indicate that once everything that needs to be done is done, Rocket League for Steam is going to be delisted. Um, it's like, I suppose that that kind of ties into another question surrounding Rocket League right now, and that is the game going to go free to play when it moves over to the Epic Games Store? Once again, we don't know that.
Yeah, and
I'm like,
I think wasn't Rocket League built in Unity?
no, it's built in Unreal Engine.
Oh, that's right.
Like, no, like the big these are big questions because we've never really had a situation like this Not so much a game disappearing when getting acquired or something like that. That has happened before. Like, remember, Rocket League isn't just a game; it's one of those games as service products. You know, it's there's an entire economy here, and another big point is, no, they're not just launchers. Like, Rocket League is actually built around Steam functionality.
Yeah, it actually uses
Yeah.
Steamworks for its multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention, it uses the Steam Workshop, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And that's a big one. That's probably the biggest, like even above multiplayer, because what that means is it's got mod support. And here's the thing: the Epic Games Store doesn't have that. Not at this current time. Maybe it'll have it in the fall. We don't know. There's so much we don't know, and Epic Games isn't clarifying. The only thing that they've said is they'll continue to support the Steam version. But then again, this is just stuff that they're claiming.
Yeah, and like we have no idea if it's still going to have crossplay, or if you can only play with other Steam users.
Yeah, I'm like, all of this is kind of showing why attempting to use a 4-year-old game that's very popular as a new prop for your storefront is fucking stupid.
Yeah, now if they would have been making like a Rocket League 2, then, whatever.
That also that would be a better selling point, and also be less of an asshole move, frankly.
Yeah, it's like, because a lot of people aren't trusting this whole line of dialogue.
We've seen this song and dance before, and how many dead games has that given us?
Well, it's also because Epic Games doesn't, it's like they don't have any fucking credibility at this point. It's like their pursuit of exclusive games is not that people have complained about it, but there's no rule against it. I mean, it is just business, but it's all of the lying and dishonesty that has gone on around it. Like Epic Games, fucking Tim Sweeney, they decided to take this little guy approach. Like they're the savior of the independent gamer, and they're fighting against the tyranny of Steam and all that stuff. While doing some of the most fucking anti-competitive moves the PC gaming space has seen since probably the days of Games for Windows Live. Like, it's to the point where people who once fucking championed Epic Games in the Epic Games Store, looking at you, Jim Sterling, have changed their fucking tune about it because, oh right, they've gotten so obvious about this that not even the cheerleaders can ignore it. I'm like, unless they're being willful at this point, as far as I'm concerned. Like, also, I get to say, I fucking told you so, because I fucking called this shit months ago. We all, we did. And
I mean, competition in the game industry, or the games launcher storefront industry, isn't bad, but this isn't a healthy way to do it.
No, it's like, this whole competition thing was framed as something that was going to help the consumer. I'm like, quite frankly, nothing Epic Games has done that.
Well, and like specifically with Rocket League, we don't know if they're going to try and push people to buy it again on the Epic Store.
Yeah.
You have like hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Rocket League players on Steam. If they're going to get the shaft and make them all buy it again on Epic Store, that's a real dick move.
Yeah. Or, just make it, having that game off of Steam. It's like you're pulling shit that EA didn't. It's like, to it, here's the thing. I can buy old Top Cat games on Steam. I can get EA games before the Origins thing happened on Steam. Fucking Microsoft didn't do this shit.
Yeah.
When Microsoft bought Minecraft, they didn't fucking pull it from everywhere else and put it on the Xbox One or wherever.
Yeah, they're still supporting the original Java PC version.
Yeah, it's like if Epic Games does that, they'll have pulled one of the biggest anti-competitive moves ever seen. Just flat out. And it's no wonder that they're morphing into the villain so fucking quickly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they're doing this shit.
You're supposed to compete by providing something by doing something better, not just by making it impossible for your competitors to do what they were doing.
Yeah, because in its current state, the Epic Games Launcher is wholly inferior to Steam, especially from a social aspect.
Yeah, but let's be clear here. This is actually the secondary evil here because, we've trying not to, it's like it's time to address it again. Crunch, okay?
Yeah.
The fucking culture of crunch is fucking emerged once again. There have been several companies, developers fingered. You got BioWare. NetherRealm Studios has come up about 3 times, and it also helps that for our purposes, Epic Games is shown up here because their crunch is probably the worst because their crunch is being done in conjunction with Fortnite. The big world crushing game that makes them all of the money.
Yeah. People think, the seasons thing is cool. No, people need to still make that content.
Yeah, it's like that's.
I mean, the idea of a game that develops like that is cool, but it's not a good idea to do it by making your workers, grind themselves into a fine paste.
Yeah, and what makes this even worse than your regular crunch is because we're talking about something that doesn't end.
Yeah. They're in almost near constant crunch.
Yeah, it's like with regular game development cycles, the way that they justify this is it's only for a few months. It's only for X amount of time until we get game X out the door.
Mm-hmm.
That's still inexcusable, but that it's supposed to be for a little bit. But now, in the world of games as a service, constant updating, year-long DLC campaigns, games aren't just done when they're supposed to be done. Especially the live service games, they are grinding people. Even worse because it never ends. It literally never ends.
Mm-hmm. It'll only end when Fortnite stops making Epic all of the money.
Yes, I'm like, and it's like I don't even know what to say here because I'm not sure what exactly could be done about the culture of crunch on the on something like Fortnite.
Yeah, like the only plausible thing I've seen thrown around is unionization, but
Well, it's like on that subject, like Riot Games saw a walkout the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that leads to something bigger, but it's also why I'm really concerned about Psyonix. It's like, now they've enjoined themselves to a company that, treats its workers like shit. I mean, say what you will about Valve, but I don't think I've ever heard of. They're not renowned for crunch. I think I'm safe in saying I'm not 100% sure that's never happened with them. But it's like Valve has never been concerned about having a product out by a certain point in time.
Yeah.
Is what
I'm pretty sure you can set your watch to Steam projects or Valve projects being delayed.
Right. it and and just to reiterate, Epic Games isn't the only practitioners of this shit. Far from it. It's like, fucking NetherRealm Studios. Their crunch problems apparently date back to the Midway era, at least. Like, the stories that have been coming out of there are not just from Mortal Kombat 11. It's Mortal Kombat 10. It's the Injustice series, all the way back to Mortal Kombat 9. Like I said, it probably goes back, back to when NetherRealms was part of Midway. So, it's like crunch has been a persistent problem since probably the beginning of the video game industry. Like, I recall, we had one of the founders of Dynamics on the show. What was it, last season?
I think so.
And, it's like he mentioned crunch. He mentioned having to leave the video game industry for about a decade because he was so burnt out by the crunch. We're talking the 80s and 90s. Like,
back when, crunch period was like maybe a couple weeks because you could get a game out fairly quickly.
It was probably less intense, but
oh yeah.
I mean, as far as games made in Japan go, you can't underestimate the Japanese work culture's basic understanding that crunch is just arbitrarily there for whatever fucking reason sometimes. But certainly the fact that games are that much more complex. I mean, back then you could crunch and like finish something. Now it's like crunch to like just do one step of the process.
Right. And yeah, it's also mentalities, like a big thing, it's like a big thing is, exploiting the desire to like work in the video game space because, it's like, truth be told, video games is kind of a terrible place to work.
Oh yeah.
If you're looking for like, and I'm just talking like, big picture, tech picture, like the video game industry pays far less, will chew you up far quicker.
Yeah.
It's like,
if you don't acquire the skills to make a game on your own, you're pretty much a slave to the machine.
Well, it's like, I wouldn't go that far because let's be honest, crunch is a thing on the indie scene as well, but it takes place in a different format. It's like we've had these people on the program too.
Right.
It's like, remember, like stories of people working, fucking 3-5 years on a game. And they dedicate so much of their lives to that one thing. It's like, the only reason we don't call that crunch is because, it's you do it to yourself rather than, some faceless corporate cog is doing it to you. But the net result's the same, quite honestly. Now, that needs to be recognized, I think, because, you can't let your own passions fuck your work-life balance. Which is kind of why I'm glad that our show is where it is. We don't need to throw ourselves to the logarithm. It's like, you want to talk about fucking crunch, YouTubers and streamers.
Oh God.
It's like
streamers specifically, because if they don't stream us every day, they're not making money.
Yeah, it's like 8 hours a day, no fucking breaks. Like, I mean, granted, they can make millions, but I'm like, yeah, if you're doing that, with no fucking breaks, no fucking anything else, is that fucking worth it? I guess it is to them, but it's like, it's not like these professions have fucking job security.
Yep. If Twitch folded tomorrow, they'd all be screwed.
Yeah. Whereas, well, I mean, I guess we just moved to YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
or Mixer. Like,
Yeah.
there are options. So, but yeah, it's just in general, crunching your body is bad. It's not just bad for your people's health, but it's bad for business because you know
You produce an inferior product if you're
yeah, it's
constantly
like
crunching.
Yep.
it's like if you've got human bodies working 50 hours or more, like they're not at their best. Like just that's physiology.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
People are so fucking tired and stressed and what have you that they're not going to put in their work. But they don't care. Like I mean make it a grumbling about capitalism or whatever. I mean, honestly, this kind of thing it wouldn't better under socialism. Like, you gotta meet those fucking quotas. Just you know, it's like I do hope unionization or better working conditions, something gets better with this shit because I don't want to have to fucking talk about crunch again. I don't want to see more fucking stories about crunch. But here's the thing: I know they're gonna fucking happen. You know,
Mm-hmm.
even if things change, this is gonna be one of those changes that companies fight tooth and nail until it fucking changes. You know,
Right. Well, that's like with a lot of like unionization efforts.
I'm aware of that. I'm aware that to actually unionize and be successful and all that stuff. I suppose the thing that flummoxes me the most is there is like no strong game workers union anywhere. I mean, like even in Europe, I can't really think of any games unions that exist currently.
Yeah.
I mean, Europe does have better laws about this shit just because they're better about this thing than America is. But still, even they don't have unions that protect video game workers. And that's what I'm saying. This is one of those things where it's not just an American problem. It's a worldwide problem. It's like, so hopefully people, not just here or in Canada, but, France, Britain, Eastern Europe, I mean,
And like the bigger problem is there's so many people coming out of college who could just do your job. So if you start trying to unionize out,
right.
they can go grab a college student and do your job.
And
Basically do most of your job and pay them less than they were paying you.
right, and focusing this on Europe, this is what they're doing. It's like when it comes to Europe, they're moving, the jobs to Eastern Europe. It's like focusing on places like Poland, Croatia, Bulgaria, and whatnot, because much like other forms of outsourcing, the people there work much cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
And so on and so forth. Um, it's how CD Projekt Red can create a game like The Witcher 3 on a budget of $30 million or so. It's got it's got the AAA production values, but it's a lot less expensive because this is being built in Poland, where everything's a lot less expensive.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, there have been the stories of crunch on The Witcher 3 as well. Like I said, this is a fucking worldwide problem. This is an industry-wide problem. And I hope it gets fucking better. Because, it's like, but I'm not too optimistic about the short term. Long term, we'll see. But I'm pretty sure that, the path to less crunch, better condition. It's one of those. It's going to be painful. It's going to be arduous. There's no two ways about it. The powers that be are going to fight this.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to fight this every step of the way. I mean, once again, like, yeah, other unionization efforts, even going back in the day, like, fuck, you want to talk about painful unionization efforts? Like, go read up on stuff that was happening in the 19th century or the 20th century. Like, they were fucking bloody. I'm like, but
Yeah.
that's beyond the scope of what we're talking about here. I'm like, so yeah, I hope things get better. All right. So with that out of the system, good luck to Psionics. Hopefully they won't be fed to the cogs of the crunch.
Mm-hmm.
To get out the next Rocket League updates, or hell, Epic Games might end up shit canning Rocket League in a year and moving everyone over to Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite gets basically Rocket League features.
It's like, because remember, we don't really know I know what Epic Games has said with their intentions on Rocket League and all that stuff, but I'd be wary because their true intentions may be they want to hurt Steam, and get rid of this thing that makes them a lot of money. So anyway, I guess time will tell on that front. So that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Once again, if you're finding this episode a bit light, the interview portion was recorded this morning. It is already available. Sorry about the audio quality. Time constraints really didn't allow us to futz around to get rid of the wind tunnel. This is important because on Friday morning we got to head back to the Discord. Because we have another show to do this week. This is why this is, the A show. We've got the B show. As on Friday, May 10th, we'll be welcoming Medric Eloui. I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. Like, it's French. So, anyway, they are of the studio Playmind. They are the developers of a very interesting adventure game, The Inner Friend. We'll be talking about that and what, hopefully what else that they're working on, because I'm trying to remember like the exact release structure of The Inner Friend. I know it's out on PC, but I'm trying to remember if that's out on consoles yet. Anyway, it's something to look over the next few days. So until Friday, I shall wish you good gaming.